Darius. I am not primarily a nonfiction writer. I'm mostly a short story writer, but I have also always felt that there's a blurry line between fiction and nonfiction, and it's nice to kind of go back and forth. Um, so the piece that I wrote is called "The Iranians of Mercer Island," which is the town that I grew up in for most of my childhood, nearby here in Seattle. And just to give a brief context, the question that I was trying to deal with in the piece was about being a small community within a larger community, what that meant for us as Iranians growing up there, and whether that meant we had something tighter within our small community than I saw on the outside, and how much we were supposed to go back and forth. These are all the questions I had. So, all right. Little by little, we began to see that the place we could have here was the place we could make for ourselves. It meant that who you were had to emerge. We owed it to one another. I owed it to the Iranians to try out for the basketball team, even though I got cut every year, because if I did make the team, there would be an Iranian name on the back of one of the high school jerseys. Then nobody could say that we weren't a part of that place. We had a chance to show them what Iranians were, but this meant that first we had to know ourselves. I didn't know how we were supposed to do that when even the air I breathed was American before it was mine. But I breathed it in deeply until I knew that that wasn't true. It was mine before it was American. It needed a boy to breathe it in before anything else. It needed a boy the same way that the evening sky needed a boy to dream under it, and the stars needed a boy to wonder at them. America needed me, I thought. It didn't always know it, but in its quiet moments, it did. And it needed the Iranians to sing long into the night. It didn't know it needed that at all, but we did. I didn't know how we knew, but I would listen to the singing and tell myself to remember that there was a secret knowledge in the world, something that wasn't seen in the rush of the day. But the next morning, I would wake up and it would seem like the only thing secret was wondering and asking again. I didn't know how to bring that secret part of myself together with the part that knew something for sure. If I had Iran the way they did, I thought, then I would know it. I would know what longing really was. The singing always sounded very sad to me. It was the only time that I saw people making room for sadness together. In America, sadness seemed like an individual's road, and I tried to make the street behind our house that ran along the school and the fields my version of it. It was good to have a street like that. I'd walk up and down it, thinking of the American girl in my class and whether she could really help me love as much as it seemed like she could. I'd come home and my mother and father would ask me what I was thinking about, but they wouldn't ask me what was wrong because the memory of the last time there had been singing in our house was still within them. They knew there was plenty that was wrong if you wanted to look at it that way. You were stuck in the business of living, and maybe that meant you were stuck living far from home, or maybe it meant you were stuck living in a world that felt too small at some times and too big at others. But either way, there was a respect for sadness because we couldn't know ourselves without it. So I listened and thought of all the things that wouldn't keep going here in America. There were a lot of them, and most of them I didn't even know yet. The Iranians knew it. They didn't expect us to carry on everything. The best we could do was to be quiet when they sang, which we were. Then we would joke with one another about their extended goodbyes, full of bows and ceremony, knowing somewhere inside of us that their goodbyes would last longer than our joking. They would still have the last word. We had to joke because it softened the edges of the two sides we sat upon. Those two sides were far apart most of the time, but they were close when we were all together. And those sides were close inside me when I walked along that street behind our house. I just didn't know how they could ever be close in a way that was meant for all the world to see, like the way it could be seen in the Iranian singers. Even an American could hear the sadness of their singing. I saw it firsthand the night that the singing got too loud and one of our neighbors called the police. He was a lonely American cop who knocked on our door late at night. My father told him that we would sing more quietly, and then it felt too impolite to just send him off into the night. So my father invited him in to have some tea and listen to the singing. I was thrown for a loop because I thought that one way to be Iranian in America was to be against the agents of state control. But my father, who knew much more about agents of state control, didn't care about all that and brought him in and gave him a place to sit. The Iranians of Mercer Island were very happy. It was a chance to show their lives, to show that whatever else the cop thought Mercer Island was made of, it also had this, Iranians singing in the night. It was a part of Mercer Island the Iranians had always known. They were introducing the cop to his own town, the quiet town he had been patrolling at night. I was going to have to find something more when it came to being Iranian in America than just being against the agents of state control. You see, my father told him, the singing is sad because we miss our country. I can see that. It is sad. Yes, my father smiled and the Iranian smiled as if to say, tell us what you are sad about. Thank you, the cop said. I hope you can come again, my father said. Thank you, the cop said again. Hopefully it won't be because you have been singing too loud for the neighbors. My father smiled and shrugged. Yes, you see, he said, we forget when we sing. The Iranians had something, to not only sing, but then to invite in a cop called to stop the singing and have him listen to more, albeit quieter singing. We were seeing something of their lives too. We were seeing how something hard could also have moments of being very easy. They started saying their elaborate goodbyes again, but we didn't joke about them. We were only kids, but we were starting to pay attention to what lasted and what did not.